want to start off with some of the biggest announcements that we have had this week. What do you call that?
Vision Pro.
Vision Pro headset. So a lot of automotive brands are in the process of rebranding, refreshing the look. Point of time, Nakil really reshaped the Dubai. I mean, like some of the iconic projects.
For example, if we are talking about the AI, we are seeing very clear competition of the Microsoft versus Google.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Unboxed, the show where we explore or unravel the heart and soul of branding, marketing, technology, and everything else. So today's episode is going to be slightly different. I have with me my trusted creative director, Aamir. I'm sure you all know him from previous episode. We're going to talk about some of the recent happenings in the branding world, technology space. We're just going to have a little bit of a conversation on some of the recent news updates that we come across. I want to start off with some of the biggest announcements that we have had this week, starting with Apple. Apple is having their WWDC, and usually it's all about software. But this year it was slightly different because they had a major announcement. This was the what do you call that?
Vision Pro.
Vision Pro headset. And the funny thing is that it completely disrupts everything out there in the market. True to, the brand. Apple is all about disruption, challenging the status quo, and thinking different. They are not always the first people to come out with the technology, but they always end up disrupting with their product. It was the same for iPods, it was the same for iPhones, the same for iPads, and Watch. When it came out, it completely disrupted the market. And right now they have something, and it's kind of a risky thing from my perspective, because it's not adopted as widely as some of the other products. It's a new product, and not many people use it, and it's kind of a gamble for them. But it's quite interesting. I don't know if you saw the WWDC or if you've been following the news. What are your thoughts on that?
I missed the WWDC, but apart from that, I'm actually following up with the Apple news of things.
All right.
And what I believe is, like with the news, what is outside there, there is a lot of negative things about the headset itself. But as a brand or as a product itself,
all right,
I'm seeing a huge potential. And there is a very strong rationale around it from my perspective, because we just experienced the ChatGPT and AI stuff, right? And doing this, after that, coming up with the headset, and they're not talking about the metaverse or anything.
The keynote.
They're more talking about the AR VR thing. So if I put everything in context, I feel that is a very brilliant move. The only caveat which the people is talking about is about the pricing. But as you know that the pricing strategy for the Apple is completely different.
True.
They normally don't give anything for cheap.
True.
But at the same time, again, coming up with the with that headset at launching at the same time. So from that perspective, because when the ChatGPT and the microchip and all those coming together to speedify all the the happenings which is happening around us, I think it's a brilliant move.
It's an interesting point, because something that you just mentioned, like they've actually stayed away from using words like artificial intelligence, generative computing, intelligence, or metaverse. But they've used, I mean, if you followed the WWDC and some of their announcement on the iOS and iPad OS, and there's a lot of intelligence baked into the system, but they haven't used explicitly the words AI or metaverse, something that Facebook, Google, and Microsoft have been using a lot. And this is quite interesting because the world is moving towards AI. There's a lot of buzz around this keyword, AI and metaverse. But Apple is somehow not using it. Why do you think they're not using it?
I think because of the brand wagon, right? For example, if we are talking about the AI, we are seeing very clear competition of the Microsoft versus Google. And if we are talk about the metaverse, there was like, when the Meta actually comes in and actually own the whole space. So in back of their mind,
they've invested billions of dollars into this Meta. Yeah.
So I believe that Apple team very creatively and strategically position themselves like where they want to talk about. So
Exactly.
with all the AI and the metaverse saga, the people, so the AR VR kind of world which goes back. But I feel that that is the potential, because the kind of like real life case study which is happening along with the AR and the VR, it has a potential which is not explored yet.
Yes.
So I think in a very smart move, Apple actually find the niche of it.
True.
So the use case example can connect to metaverse or the AI, but it has to be connected with the AR and the VR thing. So from that perspective, it's just from my perspective is looking really nice, and the potential is there.
Yeah, I think what's something that I found interesting is like essentially they've used a new term. I mean that's typical Apple fashion. They've used something called spatial computing. Now this is a new word that they've come up with, and but I'm not sure, because sometimes generally people who've used MetaQuest Pro or any AR VR headset, PlayStation VR, or even some of the other headsets out there, there's like the general opinion is that it's not very you cannot use it for a long time. You use it for 30 minutes, you feel dizzy. I mean, it's not something that you can wear it throughout the day or experience for a long term. And I don't know how this is going to change with Apple's Visual Pro headset, but it would be quite interesting to wait and watch, because it's just hitting the market early next year. They've opened it up for developers to come up with the apps, because right now they have only their apps, which is on there. And I think it would be really interesting to see how this all plays out. And I think Apple is moving very strategically, because they've put the price right up there. It's not for everybody. They don't want everyone to buy it and use it and start it's probably only for the developer community. They want to create apps, they want to create experiences around it. I think that's a smart move, very typical Apple fashion. And
that's true. It's like because it's not for everyone, but it's for a very selected few. Like who can use it on a like real life case study. Like for example, if the architect is working and he want to have a spatial, the experience of the project which he is working on, he has the possibility of like actually wear it and experience how the building is coming in, how it's building up. And it's for the use cases for the clients to have to look, so for example, if the drawing is there, so technically a project is coming alive before the building.
Exactly.
So that's the kind of potential is there. That's why I'm saying again and again that from my perspective, Apple is smartly moving towards the AR VR.
Yes.
So focusing on that, because the people has the adaptability within the multiple sectors where they are talking about the AR VR, and they have the use case experience on it. So it's correlated that particular segment really well.
If you remember, Microsoft came out with a similar concept a couple of years back, the HoloLens. Google tried their hand at this, Google Glasses. Of course, now Facebook is on the bandwagon, and now we have Apple. But I find that when I look at these innovations, particularly the HoloLens, when it came out, it was like quite interesting, because they showed something very similar. It was a mixed reality headset. You could do the modeling on your table, and it was quite. It was ahead of its time. because the acceptance, adaptability was not there at that point of time. But I don't know what happened to the HoloLens project. But this sounds very interesting, and I've been listening to reviews of people who've tried the headset, of YouTubers and other tech guys who've actually tried on the headset, and they say it's really mind-blowing. It's like nothing else out there in the market. They're quite speechless. They don't have words to explain the experience.
Yeah.
So I think Apple is doing a great job. We still have to wait to try it out, but I think yeah.
It's also about the technology what they are infusing in.
Yes.
So for example, the Apple headset is having the M2 chip. Right. So for example,
M1 chip, I think. M2 chip, yeah.
M2 chip.
All right.
So 3 years back, there was not a lot of chips which can understand the
Yeah,
kind of
the
information what we are
computing
perceiving
power,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So I think by virtue of nature, over the period of time, with the AI revolution right across, we have experiences where we know that the chip is the crucial part, right? And connecting it with the headset.
True.
So the speed of things, along with the experience of the AR VR, is just completely makes sense. And from that perspective, I find it is Apple is on the right time.
Yeah, and I love the what they've done. Like you said, the computing power is quite crucial, because at the end of the day, you're wearing this on your head, and you cannot make it so heavy.
Exactly.
So it needs to be light. There are a lot of limitations on how much technology you can pack onto this. There's a lot of restrictions and challenges.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they showed in the demo was when they opened up a MacBook, and they actually you could actually lift the screen from here, make it bigger, have multiple screens.
Yeah.
So the computing power happens here in the Mac, but you could run your Final Cut Pro or all these heavy applications. And that was quite interesting for me, because then you don't have to have all that computing power on your headset.
Exactly.
So this is like typical Apple fashion. This is like total disruption, and they have the right chips. Nobody's coming closer to beating them on the chipset side of things.
Yeah.
So
the only kind of thing which I'm just waiting for it to happen, like for example, the person is wearing the headset and the Adobe new AI thing, and you are actually creating visual through the live screens. It's just kind of because of the chip and the computing power which we are experiencing right now. It's just show the potential of of using those headsets in different set of things. It's ultimately it's not for the movie only, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it has to be connected with the world, because that's where the most of the things happening.
I think in a couple of years down the line, what you're doing right now as a creative director, creating experiences, creating brands, creating all these visuals, I think we'll have to think about a new way, because there's a new medium, there's a new platform that we really need to think about, because brands would like to get on there, right? Like how brands wanted to get on the metaverse. We had this heavy equipment machinery company who wanted to get on the metaverse, and we asked them why not, right? So they are everybody would want, all the brands would want to explore this space. So we need as creatives, as we would need to find out, we need to adapt, we need to make sure that we are able to get those clients on there and communicate.
Yeah, the potential of the possibility is limitless. Because the technology of certain things, I'm not seeing this as as a collective, but right now it's in individual pieces. But ultimately it will club together. So for example, you were starting with the metaverse, you are talking about the AR VR thing, which Apple is focusing on in the form of spatial experiences, and the cloud computing and the AI. When it's come together and when it's clubbed, that's where all the real magic happens.
Exactly.
So right now,
and I think only Apple is poised or is in the right place to do that, because they have the hardware, they have the software, they have experiences built around it, and I think, I think we'll have to wait and see. But I'm really excited. I don't know if I'm going to buy it, but it's definitely I would really love to try it out, because everyone who's tried it says it's mind-blowing. It's nothing like what you've experienced right now. Even the quality of the pixels, even if it is just looking at a screen, the quality of pixels and everything is totally mind-blowing and so off the charts.
So they're putting everything from their learning of iPhone and the MacBooks. They are infusing into it. So they are using the Retina display onto it. They are putting the best chip what they have. So it's just amazing.
And the kind of sensors, and I believe what I've read is they've, I think, patented around 2,000 patents or something of that sort. For all the technology that's packed into it, infrared sensors, there's so many cameras on there. There is the iris scanning, and so there's so much of technology packed into it.
True.
So, setting Apple aside, I think we can go on with Apple for the whole day. But,
we are Apple fans, that's why.
What else do we have I think some of the recent rebrands. I think one is very recent. Something happened in June, the 1st of June, that is JLR. And then one which has happened last year, probably in August or September, October, which was in Akil. But recently they've won some awards. I think let's start off with JLR, right?
Yeah. So for JLR, what I'm seeing right now is a lot of hate regarding, because it's very linear. It's
very simple,
very simple. It's too plain. So a lot of feedback from the design community.
Some of the comments is unimaginative and very generic look. So that's some of the comments that's coming out online.
So most of the designers fraternity, they were saying that it's a very in-house design job. They should have been put a lot of effort onto it. But from my perspective, apart from that, those one thing, I think as a designer we have to think about the strategic input.
Exactly.
So might be the expression is very simple of the GLR. But what is the rationale of creating the strategy behind it?
True.
So they are not removing the Jaguar or Land Rover or anything. It's just more about the corporate building or the corporate brand, what they are trying to create here. So from that perspective, as I most of the time I told my clients as well that design is very subjective. Is from one person to another, it could be varied. From that perspective, if we go only by the expression, is basic, but at the same time it is connected with the corporate. So because they don't want to get the attraction from the brand to the JLR, because JLR has a corporate sanity on towards it. So from that perspective, I think they are still thinking of it, but they started. So I think it's a good move from my perspective, because in a parent company, so JLR is there, but the brand is there. So they are creating verticals. From that perspective, if I'm seeing that they are doing very smartly on a strategic level.
And if you look at a lot of automobile brands are rebranding, right? Right from Kia to which others, more recent ones. So a lot of automotive brands are in the process of rebranding, refreshing the look. And what I've read is that this Jaguar, Land Rover, JLR rebranding is part of a 15 billion pound reimagine strategy. So they're looking forward, they're looking ahead to the future, more electrified future. They're looking at upgrading the facilities. It's not, this 15 billion pounds is not just for a logo refresh. It's a more, they're trying to align the vision to the vision of the future, which is more modern, which is more simple, which is more luxurious, and they're just trying to accelerate everything onto that. So that's basically what I've read in terms of the rebranding.
They actually infused the very British heritage towards it. For the GLR as well. So if we go towards the luxury segment of the British industry, they're always very specific. The word has to be visible. It's very straightforward. No fuss around it. That's what they did. In a very design perspective, if we go by the British heritage of the design. So for example, as I was telling you about, the Mini Cooper, the new branding, what they did in the lights. So they used the Union Jack to create the...
the light.
And it is so brilliant.
It's a small touch, but but it goes... It's nice. There was some concern regarding online of course, regarding the fact that there were people asking, is Land Rover going to go away? Are these individual names going to go away and stuff like that? I think JLR has clarified that all these brands are going to remain. This is basically more of a corporate parent brand. It's more of their vision for the future, and it embodies elegance, modernity, and forward thinking. So this is some of the keywords that they've tried to incorporate into the whole exercise when you look at the rebranding of JLR. So yeah, I think for me, what are your personal thoughts on the brand itself?
I think it's a very smart move from my perspective, because I'm trying to understand what could be the rationale around it, or the behind it. I find it very similar to RR of Rolls-Royce. So Rolls-Royce always use that RR. So I think, I'm assuming that could be one inspiration towards looking at it. Because JLR is like, for the corporate they are using it, but without touching the verticals or the brands what they have. So they are just trying to club it together in a JLR format, right? So from that perspective, it's very basic, it's nice in a way, because they are not focusing as JLR to create a brand, because it's a parent company, so news releases, investor relations, they will be focusing toward that part, but the brand is there. So if anything happening within the brand vertical communications, that is separate. So JLR will remain, very corporate feel to it.
Exactly.
So from that perspective, I think it's a matter of time, because design community is so big, so they always come up with, the love and the disliking towards any brand. That's always the case. But if we go towards the back end of thing and put a little strategic mindset towards it, I think it's a smart move.
Yeah, design is all about subjective. People have different opinions. For me personally, I like simplicity. I understand that there's always a strategy behind things, and how they've clearly outlined. It's part of a bigger vision for the brand. They want to reimagine things for the future. And I think this is a smart move. I like the approach. I know most people don't agree. They say it's too simple, too plain. But I like the approach, and I like the simplicity of how it looks. And
Also, I feel that if they put kind of like a lot of effort on the JLR thing, like make it like more happening, it might impact the other brands as well, right? So for example, the limelight, they take away from the verticals. So they don't want to do it, because ultimately those brand verticals, the Range Rovers, Land Rover, Discovery, Jaguar, these are their brands. Ultimately this is for the masses, but JLR is for connecting all those companies together, all the brands together.
Yes.
So I think it's a smart move from that perspective.
All right. What do we have next? We've talked about Apple. We've talked about JLR. What do we have next?
It's about the Nakheel.
Nakheel, yeah. Nakheel, what can I say? I think at one point of time, Nakheel really reshaped the Dubai. I mean, like some of the iconic projects, the Palm Islands, and then something happened in between, and now they want to come back in a big way. They want to realign with Dubai's 2040 master plan. And what are your thoughts on that? The rebranding happened a couple of months back, last year. But I think recently, this month or last month, they've won the Transform. They've won 6 awards at the Transform Awards. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think and I believe that Nakheel is always the showrunner about the Dubai real estate. Because when Dubai is, expanding or developing at a certain point of time, they created the Palm concept, which got the attraction from all over the world, because it was unheard of. That kind of, the gigantic.
At that point of time.
At that point of time, when you are thinking it's not possible,
Yeah, exactly.
they make sure that it's possible, it's doable. You have to believe.
And they proved it as well. I mean, it's live. The palms are live. We've been there.
So, like, from that perspective, they kind of like, okay, they delivered one palm, but now they are focusing on the second palm, which is much bigger than the previous one.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just not one palm. The kind of like other things which they are doing, the seashores of
master
like,
plan,
the
yeah.
beaches which they are offering to that, it's just amazing. So from that perspective, as you rightly said, is about the 2040 vision of the Dubai. So in the back of the time, they were developing the project for the 2020, right? So they are
Exactly.
thinking of at least 20 years ahead. That's the kind of thinking what Nakheel puts into it.
And interesting that you mentioned the shoreline, because one of their key statements as a brand is to reimagine Dubai's shoreline. So they want to actually redefine it, the shoreline of Dubai. And I think Nakheel is a player to do that. They've been doing that for years, and they're the brand that's synonymous with some of the most iconic projects in Dubai, right?
It's also connected with the growth perspective of Dubai itself, right? So 2040, when we are saying it, so it's more about the growth perspective. So it will become to move the engine. So that's the perception, or that's the strategy what they have, and I think this is amazing.
And Nakheel is they've been around for 22 decades, right? 20 years and more, I believe. And the recent Transform Awards that they won are in the categories of Best Brand Evolution, Best Visual Identity, Best Brand Architecture Solution, Best Use of Typography, Best Use of Visual Property, Best Creative Strategy. So I think these are the 6 categories that they've actually won awards in, and I think there was a lot of press around that as well.
Yeah, because it's just the kind of like, because of the gigantic, the depth of the project. Nakheel is actually reshaping, the future of the Dubai in a way. So that's why they are focusing on happiness is no one thing. It's just more than that.
And the CMO, like when he was asked why do this, so one of his replies was like, we wanted to capture the ambition and vision of the brand and align it to the 2040 master plan.
Yeah.
So I think this is at some point in the life cycle of a brand, this is realignment is quite important.
True.
Because sometimes we lose focus, and we really need to bring the brand back to the roots, to the original vision, and make sure that it's in line with the strategy. Because as the brand evolves over time, there are more people coming in, there are different people working on the brand, there are different projects, there are collaborations, there are buy-ins, buyouts. So essentially it's crucial to have a rethink, come back to the drawing board, look at, is our brand really aligned to our vision for the future? And if not, what are we going to do that? We need to communicate that, because we really believe in that as a brand, but does that reflect in who we are and how we speak and how we communicate? And this is the time when actually brands start thinking about, refreshing, realigning, rebranding and all that.
Yeah, from my perspective, for the Nakheel, is actually the core strategy, what I believe or what I perceive as Nakheel. Nakheel always come up with the project which is very similar to the ethos of Dubai. It's ambitious, the ambition of the Dubai itself, to become the growth engine when nobody was thinking about the Dubai,
Yes.
and Nakheel come up with the palm.
Yeah.
Again, same thing, as collaborating or a melting pot like no other exists in the world.
Yes.
Right? That is the beauty of Dubai. That is the brand heritage of Dubai, which actually comes from the Nakheel as well. So Nakheel is actually, celebrating those key, the value system which is in there in Dubai market.
Yes.
Right?
I completely agree with what you said, and
Although we say Vision 2040 master plan and aligning to the future of Dubai and everything, I think a lot of credit has to go to the ruler of Dubai, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, who's been instrumental in driving this, because everything, I mean, most of these projects and most of these brands are aligned to his vision. Although we have this, we call it by 2040 master plan. I think he was instrumental at that point of time in envisioning this and bringing it to life, because I don't think anybody else now, if you look at around the world, there are similar projects, there are a lot of copycats, but at that point of time this was iconic, this was ambitious, people didn't believe in it, and then we made it happen. Dubai made it happen.
True.
So a lot of it is aligned to the vision of the ruler of Dubai, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. As you rightly connected, and there is one presentation which I used His Excellency quotes as well, that in Dubai you have to go towards the extraordinary, not ordinary things. It's showing that the depth of
above
thinking.
and beyond. Yeah.
Yes, it's just about thinking. So so from what I learned from him, he is always like, you don't have to worry about other people's thoughts. If you have a vision and if you believe onto it, you have to pursue it. And Dubai is the best example for it.
And the best part, I always tell whenever I talk to my team members and friends and colleagues and clients, it's great to have a vision and an idea, but it's not easy to execute it. True. Right? So we have thousands of ideas that we discuss in the office, but it never becomes a reality. So we really need that drive and push, and we really need an idea becomes an idea when it becomes a reality, right? Otherwise, it's just thin air. We just discuss about it, we forget about it, nothing happens, and everybody can think about things, right? But to make it happen is a different level altogether. So I think that sums up everything about Nakheel and Dubai as a brand.
Yeah, and I think it's very again, it's coming to the time as well. So why is happening? If we go and dig a little deeper within the side by side. So for example, in Abu Dhabi there is a lot of real estate happening and the projects happening. Sharjah is coming up with that one. Ras Al Khaimah is there. In Saudi Arabia, the NEOM is there. So if you think about those perspectives, going towards and developing a new brand positioning in perspective of the palm is just nice and good. So the correlation between the thoughts is just making more sense. So Abu Dhabi is offering something, Sharjah is offering something, NEOM is offering something. So what Dubai is coming up with, the kind of it's a mega project, and it's showing the kind of positioning and the depth of what they are thinking.
Exactly. Essentially, some of the projects that you mentioned, NEOM, and some of the major mega projects that's happening in Saudi, and some of the other parts of the UAE as well. I think the inspiration came from Dubai. I think Dubai was the driving force. Dubai was the inspiration, and when people saw Dubai doing it and it can be done, then people started thinking about, we need to do something similar or better or something like that. But I think it's all started with a simple vision and proper execution.
Yeah, Dubai is setting the standards for all the GCC. So if you have to make, there is a certain benchmark. So for luxury, there is a Swiss brand or the French brand. In GCC, if you are talking about the real estate offerings, Dubai is setting the benchmarks right up there. Yeah. No one can match it.
So I think we started with Nakheel and we ended with Dubai.
Yeah.
So I guess we've covered all the points that we wanted to discuss. Anything else to add, Aamir?
I think it's just for the time being.
So we'll cover more of these kind of interesting topics in the next episode. But I think for now that's it. And Just wanted to say that we are available on all major platforms, Apple, Spotify. We're also available. You can also watch our episodes on our YouTube channel, Moonbox. And see you in the next episode.